So thank you, Marvel. Thank you for providing everyone not only movies, but an experience to behold.
That was me 5 years ago. In this video, I'm going to be sharing my opinions on Spider Man Brand New Day and how it made me further realize my relationship with the MCU. Around a year ago, I was rewatching No Way Home's extended version, and I came to a rather disappointing realization that I have fallen out of love with the MCU. A stream of memories rushed in front of my eyes. Me watching Captain America by myself for the first time, me begging my parents to watch Civil War in theaters, me bursting in rage when my friends spoiled Infinity War back when we were in school, me reading the Infinity Saga and watching numerous theory videos in preparation for Endgame, me making an appreciation video on Spider Man, me making a video in support of Marvel's visual effects artists, me no longer excited for any of the MCU's upcoming projects? It was all a thing in the past? But how did we arrive here? Obviously, there is no starting point to stuff like this, but there were signs. Between 2022 and 2023, I watched a string of films that I feel accurately show these films' descent into mediocrity. First, we have Love and Thunder, arguably one of the worst entries from the MCU. Now, my expectations were running high. I liked Ragnarok, I loved Thor's arc from a Shakespearean Greek god with bleached eyebrows to a goofball to a sad sack of potatoes. It humanized him by showcasing that even gods can be depressed and given to the addiction of video games and cheese whiz. But unlike its predecessor, Love and Thunder felt like a complete joke of a film, or rather, a colorful $200 million vacation written like a third grade stage play. It kind of reminds me of the last concert day I attended back in school. Scary. Ooh. Another film that I watched was Wakanda Forever. Now, this was miles ahead of whatever Love and Thunder was. I especially appreciated the little nuances in the film's geopolitical commentary involving the US, Talokan, and Wakanda, and the way Namor zips through the sky with his feathered feet. Oh, cute. And the impactful tribute towards the loss of a powerhouse performer in Chadwick Boseman. Even with a movie that I somewhat liked, I couldn't help but notice the same tiring formula with which these new MCU entries were plagued with. Which brings us to Brand New Day. Did I like it? Maybe? Actually, I was kind of disappointed with it. Not because of the hype surrounding it, but because of the standards the movie set for itself in the beginning. I really liked how they established Peter Parker as this broke, depressed, borderline reclusive tech wonderkind. He's basically living in an asbestos filled apartment, fixing whatever technology he can get his hands on, and just trying to get by after the events of No Way Home. And honestly, this might be my favorite version of Tom Holland's Peter Parker. So, yeah, the movie actually started off on a very strong note. Jean Grey worked pretty well for me initially. I liked her as a foil for Peter. She's another teenager who's been given this extraordinary power that she doesn't fully understand, but unlike Peter, she seems much more willing to embrace it. That dynamic between the two of them was pretty interesting, but then we find out that she's doing all of this because she's trying to save her sister?
You need to leave!
And then you start thinking about her motivations, and the whole thing becomes even more confusing. If she's so focused on saving her sister, why does she need to constantly involve herself in Peter Parker's affairs? It feels like the movie needs her to be involved because the plot needs her to be involved. And that's where a lot of the movie started falling apart for me. I genuinely felt like I was watching a CW version of the X-Men, but I think a bigger problem than Jean's integration in the movie was with how Brand New Day handles the ending of No Way Home. Because No Way Home gave Peter one of the most bittersweet endings we've gotten in a Spider Man movie. Everyone forgets Peter Parker, he loses MJ, he loses Ned, he loses the life that he had built for himself. And when he finally gets the opportunity to tell MJ who he is again, he chooses not to. I loved that because the movie had the opportunity to give us the easy, crowd pleasing ending. Peter tells MJ the truth, MJ remembers everything, they get back together, everyone goes home happy. But No Way Home deliberately chose not to do that. It lets Peter live with the consequences of his decision. And then Brand New Day comes along and feels like it needs to put a teensy little bow over that entire storyline. Like, don't worry, guys, we'll fix this. I just don't think it needed fixing. And I think that's what makes some of the other parts of Brand New Day so much more frustrating, because there are genuinely quite a number of things I loved about this. Tom Holland comes out of this as the biggest winner for me. I thought this was his best performance as both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. There's something about the way he carries himself in this movie that reminded me a lot of Insomniac's version of Peter. He's older, he's more experienced, he's more exhausted, but there's still that sense of responsibility underneath everything. And I think bringing in Destin Daniel Cretton was a much needed change from whatever the hell John Watts was doing. He brought the sauce, you know what I'm saying? The action feels more physical. Spider-Man actually feels like he's moving through the environment rather than just being another CGI model flying around it. And there's a little more personality behind the camera. I also really enjoyed the additions of Punisher and Yelena, and that brings me to something I've always loved about the MCU. That no matter the quality of the film, they will never compromise on the connective tissue that binds their cinematic universe together. And then of course, we finally get the Hulk back. And even though he's only in the movie for a few minutes, I was on cloud 9. The movie also introduced the idea that Peter's DNA is beginning to mutate, and I'm thinking, are we actually doing Man Spider? Because this could have been such a great story for that. Peter is already at his lowest point. You have Bruce Banner, a scientist whose body has been fundamentally altered by an experiment. Peter is isolated from everyone he loves. He's trying to rebuild his life. Now, his own body is beginning to betray him. You could have had this entire story about Peter being afraid that he's losing control of the one thing that defines him, forcing him to confront the possibility that the very thing he thought made him special might actually be turning him into a monster. They could have even leaned much harder into the parallel between Banner and Peter, but instead they go for the generic, everyone is special, so why suppress that storyline? So, I think that's all my thoughts in Technicolor. This is where I'm at with the MCU. I'm still interested in seeing what they do next. I will most definitely watch Doomsday, and I'm certainly curious to see what Ryan Gosling and Sean Levy do with Ghost Rider, but there is a difference between being interested in something and being genuinely excited for it. I haven't stopped loving these characters, and I certainly haven't forgotten what Marvel once meant to me, but now I simply want to see what happens. And that's it for today. I'm interested in learning what you thought of Brand New Day. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Drop it down in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and press that notification bell to not miss any updates. I'll bid you another farewell from yet another video, and I'll see you next time. Bye!